1. All right. Hello and welcome. Hello and welcome. Welcome to everyone, and thank you for joining another episode of the Empowered Immigrant Live. My name is Otis Landerholm, and I'm the founding attorney here at Landerholm Immigration A.P.C., where we fight for your American dream. And thank you for tuning in today to another episode of the Empowered Immigrant Live. Today we're talking about the topic of my asylum case was delayed. What can I do about it? Okay, and so we'll talk about that. And as always, thank you for being here. Remember that the Empowered Immigrant Live is here to train, teach, inspire, and empower immigrants to make the most out of immigration laws and to make the most out of their lives. All right, so today our theme is my asylum case is delayed. What can I do about it? And we'll jump right into that theme. And as I'm talking, if you have questions, feel free to submit your questions. I'd love to answer any questions that are out there today. And as always, we'll do this topic in English and then we'll do it in Spanish. Okay? So we'll talk a little bit about the basics. The basics, did you know that immigration actually has a duty to adjudicate their cases? All right? And that you can file a lawsuit when they fail to reasonably do that. All right, you can do that. And if you've never known that before, or if you've never heard of that before, let me inform you that yes, immigrants, all people, have the right to file a lawsuit against the government if the government fails to reasonably take action on a case if they have a duty to assist you with something. All right? And so today we're going to be talking about what you can do if your asylum claim, if your asylum case is delayed. And so imagine your case was submitted in 2017 and you still don't have an interview. All right, the first thing to know is you're not alone. There's actually hundreds of cases that were submitted in 2017 that still don't have an interview, and nothing has happened on those cases. And so, lawyer, what can I do? What should I do? What do I do to get this going? All right. Well, the point of my conversation today is to share 3 steps, 3 things that you can do to get that going. All right. Step number 1 is to request and review all the records. All right. You want to make sure that your case is strongly presented. You want to make sure your case is ready to be adjudicated. All right, because if you go through this whole process and then the government schedules an interview for you, you don't want to cause any extra delay on your end trying to correct problems, trying to amend the forms, trying to submit additional documentation or evidence to support your case. All right, you want to make sure that everything's ready to go on your part. And so often we request all the records just to make sure that we know that your case was well submitted to begin with. All right? And if you're working with a lawyer and if they have all the copies of everything that they've submitted, maybe they've already done that, or maybe they already know that your case is in good standing and ready to move forward with. Okay? Also, when you're reviewing a case, make sure that it's a case that you really do want to push. Okay? Don't push it if you're going to lose. Don't push it without good reason if your likelihood of success is low. And so that's really the first step, and it's a big one. Request and review all the records first. Make sure you're aware of the strengths and weaknesses in your case. All right, asylum is not easy. You don't want to push it and then get your case denied. Sometimes it's better. Sometimes clients are well advised to not push it and instead just keep renewing your work permit as long as you have work permits, and then you can keep things going. And so that's step 1, though. If you want to push an asylum claim, the first step is to request and review all the records. The second step is to file what's called an expedite request. All right? Different asylum offices have protocols for how to submit a request for expedited processing. And when there are humanitarian concerns, when there's delays that are causing you hardship, it's important to document the hardship that that delay is causing you. All right, and you can do that when you submit an expedite request. You're submitting a request that the asylum office give you an asylum interview ahead of whatever line you might be in. And sometimes it feels like you're just completely not in line, right? And so then your request is, hey, get me back in line, give me an interview. I've been waiting for too long, and here's why that delay is causing me a humanitarian issue. It's causing a concern of some kind. You know, maybe you have family overseas that you want to be able to bring in. You just need to get your case adjudicated first. Maybe you have children who, you know, are growing up and they have no solid immigration status because your case hasn't been adjudicated yet. You know, there could be several factors there. And so talk those things through and submit, you know, the step 2 of the process, of the push, we call it, is to file the expedite request. Step 3 is, after you've done those things, then step 3 is a mandamus or an APA action in federal court. Okay, so what is this? This is a federal court lawsuit, and you are suing the government, alleging that they are unreasonably failing to do their job. All right, you're suing the government, alleging that they're failing to adjudicate their case, failing to adjudicate your case, and that failure is unreasonable, right? It's outside of normal processing times, or that the normal processing times, quote unquote, normal processing times are so unreasonable that they need to be challenged anyway. All right? And the way to do this, the steps involved in a mandamus case, will depend on which federal district that you are in. So you could Google search that, you know, what federal district am I in, or is my zip code, and type out the number of your zip code, you know, which federal district am I in? You know, so, you know, kind of a pause here. Those first 2 steps that I mentioned, requesting the records, filing expedite requests, my office handles those issues throughout the United States. But the mandamus action, the APA action, my office, as of this recording date, you know, in early 2024, my office only handles those cases in the Northern District of California, in front of the San Francisco, it's the San Francisco Asylum Office when we're talking about asylum cases, all right? But it's in federal court in the Northern District of California. And so you want to be mindful, right? You want to be mindful. There are different federal lawyers that handle these types of cases depending on which federal district you're in, all right? And depending on strategy, you might draft the mandamus or the APA complaint, draft the complaint, and you might have your lawyer, talk this through with your lawyer, you might have your lawyer send it to the U.S. Attorney's Office, and maybe you can get it all scheduled, you can get an interview, you can push the asylum office to get you an interview scheduled without having to actually file anything to the court. Sometimes that works. Just sending the complaint, you know, in a well-drafted email to the U.S. Attorney's Office saying, hey, you know, we'd like to get this resolved, but if we can't get it resolved, we'll need to file this lawsuit. We expect to file it in 30 days. You know, could your client, USCIS, do something to get this case back on track? It's way outside of any reasonable processing time. And sometimes that works. Other times, you might need to actually file that complaint to the federal court, and sometimes that leads to a longer, you know, it opens a door to federal litigation. You know, sometimes there's a motion to dismiss that the government files and that you'll need to oppose, right? Sometimes you need to do a hearing on that motion to dismiss. Sometimes there are other motions involved. Sometimes there's even discovery involved. You got to do a deposition with an agent from the field office or from the asylum office to see why the delays are so egregious or unreasonable, or what's causing them to begin with. All right? Ultimately, the point of the mandamus action or the APA action is to see if the federal judge agrees with you that the delay is quote unquote unreasonable in your case, that there is a duty to adjudicate and that duty is unreasonably delayed. And so, and if so, you're requesting that the federal judge order the Immigration Service to adjudicate the case, or order the Immigration Service to take one step forward in the case. For example, to at least issue the interview. Okay? And so that's the way those work. And sometimes the federal judges will agree to do that, and sometimes they won't. Sometimes during the process, the case will settle, and the U.S. attorney will just be like, hey, we'll get this sorted out, and then we'll dismiss the federal case. Okay? And sometimes in the settlement process, you get an interview scheduled. So anyway, those are tools in the toolbox to get an asylum case back on track if you want that. So what are those 3 steps again? All right. Number 1, request and review all of the records, because you want to make sure that your asylum claim is strong and complete. All right. You don't want there to be any delays on your end. You want everything to be tightened up, and you want it to be ready to go forward to an interview before you go through this process. Step 2 is you file a request for expedited processing. All right, you file an expedite request. That says, hey, this delay is causing me and my family hardship. Let's pick it up here. All right, and then step 3 is you can do a mandamus action or an APA action in federal court. Okay, so that's what those are. Hope that's useful. I hope that's helpful. If you're just tuning in, we're talking. My name's Otis Landerholm. I'm the founding attorney here at Landerholm Immigration A.P.C., where we fight for your American dream, and we're just barely talking about how can you push the asylum office if your asylum case is delayed. Okay? And so asylum delays are enormous right now. The backlogs are enormous right now. And there's a lot of requests out there for how can we, what can we do about it, and how can we push the asylum office to adjudicate my case. All right? So, all right, so let's get into your questions. I see a question here from Alec. Alec B., good morning. Great to see you. All right, great to see you. So you say, I have a question. A friend filed an I-589 application for asylum. However, he sent his asylum form to USCIS instead of the immigration judge. All right? Because it's now with immigration court, and it's now late. So because of this, he passed the 1-year deadline. All right? If it's an issue and will now file, he will now file his I-589. And now will his I-589 be denied because he is late and sent it to USCIS, but instead should have sent it to the immigration judge? Okay, Alec B., thank you. First of all, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for asking this question. So you'll have good arguments, all right? Your client was confused. He tried to file it on time. He'll need to show proof that what he mailed to USCIS was before the 1-year filing deadline, and he should show that proof to the immigration judge. All right? And that should be an argument in favor of his application. You know, when there's in the last episode, I discussed arguments around the 1-year filing deadline. Okay? One of those arguments is when there's a changed circumstance, and the other one is when there's a quote-unquote exceptional circumstance. And exceptional circumstances can include attempts to comply with the 1-year filing deadline. And so in this case, he might have a good argument, you know, depending on the timing involved, and if he can show that it was filed with USCIS timely, and if he can show that he tried to remedy it in front of the immigration court quickly, right? then he should have good arguments. And I think a compassionate immigration judge, which not all of them are, right? But a compassionate immigration judge can see past that and could declare that that was an exceptional circumstance. He attempted, at least, to comply with the 1-year filing deadline, and they'll give him the option. Okay? Or they'll adjudicate it as an asylum claim. And remember, if it's not, if asylum is denied, then they could talk about withholding of removal or relief under the Convention Against Torture, which do not have 1-year filing deadlines. Okay? And so those are Plan B and C. But you really want to fight for Plan A. And so the best advice is, push for it being an exceptional circumstance around the 1-year filing deadline. Argue that he tried to comply with the 1-year deadline. I think that a compassionate immigration judge will err with the client on that one. Okay? So, good. Alec B., I hope that's helpful. Thank you for being here. Thank you for asking that question. I don't see that we've gotten any other questions. I don't think that we have this morning. And so if not, that's fine. Thanks, everybody, for being here and for tuning in. And what I'll do is I'll wrap up with an empowerment tip, like I like to do. My empowerment tip today, it's like you are an empowered human being, and what makes you empowered is the fact that you have the power to make decisions. All right? You have the power to make decisions that can affect your future. And if you don't like something, or if something isn't working for you, what decision could you take? Or maybe, what decision are you avoiding? All right? What decision could you take to help improve your situation? And sometimes there are small decisions that we can do, like waking up a few minutes earlier, or like smiling more, or like deciding to change your attitude, or deciding to change your environment in some way, Those small decisions can sometimes lead to big differences in the outcome, can sometimes lead to big improvements in your quality of life. Okay? It's like the power that we have as human beings, that for as much as we know, most, if not any, other animal might not have that power. Right? The power that we have as human beings is that we have free will, the power to decide, the power to choose. And so the empowerment tip is take your power back and use your decision-making ability. Make a decision that actually makes a difference for you. All right? Like, go for it. Do it. Okay? All right. And if that in any way involves your immigration situation, hey, please give my office a call, all right? We are here to help. We would love to help. Okay? Picking up the phone is a decision. Okay? All right, you guys, that's all the time that we have for our episode today. We'll start this episode in Spanish in just a few minutes, so if you want to tune in for that, please join us. All right? And if this was useful, hey, please subscribe to our channel in YouTube. When you do that, click the notifications bell, all right? And you can get additional notification whenever we upload new videos with updates and news about immigration law. And if you have an immigration case or an immigration question, hey, please give us a call. We are here to help. We would love to help. All right? Thank you all so much for tuning in. My name's Otis Landerholm. I'm the founding attorney here at Landerholm Immigration, A.P.C., where we fight for your American dream. And we'll see you next time on our next episode of The Empowered Immigrant Live. Thanks a lot. Take care. Bye-bye.